Let's pretend this isn't like the fifth time I've done this. Welcome to a very special interview with two people from Dad's Garage here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you are a fan of this channel, and I don't know why you would be, you know that the website cpluscomedy.com, I host different interviews with comedians like Larry the Cable Guy, Jimmy Pardo, Maria Bamford, Craig Ferguson, Matt Besser, Jen Kirkman, Lori Kilmartin, so many people, so many wonderful people. I thought that during this coronavirus pandemic time that I might sit down with my favorite Atlanta institution for comedy, which is Dad's Garage. And they do improv there. It's a nonprofit theater where they're all about the artists and helping the comedy community around the artists. So I thought, you know what, why not sit down with them and see how they're going to bounce back after this pandemic. I spoke to John Carr and Lara Smith over there. John is the artistic director man, I believe, and Lara is the managing director. So I got the business side, I got the art side. So we got both of the sides of improv and comedy. All right, listen, hold tight. This is going to be a great interview. This is the full interview. You can see snippets of it and news time. So check it out. Roll the tape. There's no tape. Hey, John.
Yes, how's it going?
I'm doing well. What about yourself?
I'm doing good, Hey,
Chad.
Hello, it's Lara, correct?
Lara.
Okay. You know what? All weekend I was thinking, yeah, I gotta say it the right way.
Dude, I mean, everyone who spells it this way says it differently. So I can't blame you.
Well, how are you guys holding up? How's everything going right now?
Good.
It's going well. Yeah.
Good.
How about for you?
Good. I just walked in from work for my day job, and now I'm doing this, and I'm very excited. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But how long have you guys been stuck inside?
Our last show was March 13th.
Okay.
And we have been all working from home kind of probably the week after that. Is that right, John?
Yeah, basically since then. Yeah, so it's been more than a month now.
Wow. And was that transition, obviously it couldn't have been easy because, you know, Dad's Garage is improv and live, and you need to be near people. Was that transition for your jobs easy, or was it kind of difficult to switch into that role?
Well, you know, I handle the business side of the organization, and I've been with the organization now in this role for almost 8 years. So I was with the organization when we lost our long-term home in Inman Park, and then moved to Little Five Points, and then to Old Fourth Ward, where we are now. And during that time, we didn't have office space for 2.5 years. So I really kind of learned like best practices on managing people and a company from afar. And so I felt really well positioned. Now, pivoting programming is a whole nother thing, and I'll let John handle that.
Yeah, I mean, again, that one we got real lucky with. Our marketing director also is a Twitch streamer, and so she was able to help us get everything kind of set up. So I think our last show was on Friday, and our first Twitch stream was on Monday. So the fact that we kind of made the transition in a weekend was pretty spectacular. But that's a lot because of her and her just knowledge of everything, helping us get that set up.
Yeah, I'm a part of the volunteer, what's it called? The volunteer email. And so I kind of got the firsthand account of seeing you guys go from, we got to cancel the carnival to we're canceling shows to we're twitching. We were doing Twitch remote. How was it a disappointment in canceling the carnival? Because that was a huge event that everybody was looking forward to. That was going to happen. It was in March, early in March and mid-March.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to field that, John?
No, you can go ahead on that one. That's all you.
It was scheduled for March 28th. And I would say people were disappointed, but also the reason we postponed it is COVID wasn't like an actual thing yet when we postponed it. but it was stopping people from purchasing tickets. And so it wasn't going to work financially for us. And so I think people were disappointed, but once they understood that, it was fine. Like, I think the company was, by and large supportive because they understood the motivation. It is pretty crazy because we spent like 2 weeks rolling out a communication plan. And then by the time we did that, like, COVID was a real thing and everything was shutting down. But we postponed that because sales were lagging. And we think it was because of COVID. But it wasn't just a safety thing.
When did, so the carnival is in the midst of being shut down. When did you say, there was an email about helping not just the staff of Dad's Garage, but the friends of Dad's Garage. When did that come into fruition? How was that decision easy because you knew that in the entertainment community with people in our field, it was kind of difficult for them to get more gigs after this?
Yes.
I think.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think one of the things is we're set up as a theater a little bit differently than a lot of other theaters, where a lot of other theaters are you kind of, you have a play and then you hire the actors and the crew to come in to do your play. For us, it's kind of one of those things where our folks are with us a lot of times year round. So if they're not in a play, they're doing improv shows. And when they're doing improv shows, they're sometimes going to play. So we are dealing with a lot of the same people. So like when we say like Dad's Garage is a family, like we sincerely mean that because we are spending every single weekend with all of these folks. So for us, we're blessed in a lot of different ways. Is one that we had Lara on as the managing director, and she's been great about having put together like emergency funds and having us as a organization in a great position. And then two, because we are like a family, it's about taking care of our folks. And I think Laura said it best. It's like, if we're not taking care of the artists that are in our family, then, what are we doing? Like, what's the purpose of being here? And so for us, we had the luxury of not having to be in panic mode for too long because we were in such a great space. And then two, that was absolutely our next priority. It's like, okay, make sure this theater can stay open. And then how do we take care of our artists?
It's funny because within the same time span of Dad's Garage communicating and shutting down, UCB, probably the most well-known improvisational school, they have been known to have trouble communicating. They've been known to be wishy-washy on things, and then they just had to close down both of their leases in New York. So it's good that Dad's Garage can kind of step up and be exemplary when the most storied institution can't. It's great. I mean, I have major respect for. I've spoken to Besser. I have major respect for every single one of them. But it's just they were in a bad situation and it got worse. And sadly, coronavirus put them in at the end of its rope. So,
yeah. And I was just going to say, like, I don't know how to prioritize your artists as a for-profit. I think it's quite challenging. And that's the business model that UCB and a number of other large improv institutions have. Because as a for-profit, you have to, you don't have to, but you often are only prioritizing the money because you need to. And for Dads, we get to look at both the money and the mission. And so figuring out how we reach both of those allows us to kind of prioritize taking care of our performers.
Yeah. And I'll also add to that, I think one of the things that like has kind of been the deep dark secret of Dad's Garage is organizationally, we have a great organization. And Lara is one of those people that has been doing incredible work over the past 10 years, but you rarely see her because no one's doing articles on like a balanced budget. And so this has been one of those moments where we have really been able to highlight the other side of what we do, with the other side of what we do very well. We do improv very well. We do comedy very well. We have a great time, but we have this whole other side of this theater that is just as talented and just as amazing. And this is their opportunity to shine and really show that, like, hey, a theater is a holistic thing. There are no small players in any sort of theater. You know, there's those folks on stage and those folks in the office, and they're both just as important.
Now, John, did you find that switching the scheduling of the shows to online, was that, obviously not every show is going to translate easily, but was
Right.
did the performers, besides Lucky and Amber, did they all find it a not easy transition, but a good transition for them? Like, were they able to get it done right?
Well, I think we're in a kind of a unique situation because there's definitely, when we talk about like a show that we put up on a Saturday at 8:00, people are like, "Oh, that looks amazing. You guys are just doing it off the top of your head." And it's like, well, no, we put a lot of work and time and effort into it on the back end, preparing the shows, doing workshops, organizing things, and that sort of thing, because we want stuff at the highest quality. The unique thing about this is we've never done any sort of like live online stuff like we're doing now. And so for us, we've kind of approached it as, hey, our audience understands we've never done this. We understand we never done this. And improv is all about saying yes and embracing failure. And so we really took that approach to it of like, all right, we're just going to try it. We're going to go 100 miles an hour into this void that we don't know very well. And we're going to give it all we've got to make this work. And so the cool thing is the artists jumped on board with that challenge. It's exciting because it's something new. It's something we're learning. It's something we're growing in. And I think that's been the thing that has been exciting to the artists to try that. And just the fact that like half of the reason we do those Twitch and online stuff is to entertain our audience, keep our folks engaged and to raise money. But the other half is to keep our artists from going insane. Like that's what we do. We do improv, we do create stuff. And so we just want to create. And this is just gives us another platform to try some of those things.
And I saw that the Groundlings, they're doing online classes of like all varieties. They're doing stand up and improv and everything from their beginner stuff to their higher league stuff. And then Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank, they're holding all these shows. And Dad's is interesting because it's kind of like a mix of both. It's you can do the improv, you can do any type of comedy, but it also has the Flappers mentality of we got to fill the schedule. Because I know last time I looked for anything a couple of months ago, it was not, not to put on a show, but to go see a show, but it was booked from like Thursday to Sunday, and that's an amazing feat in itself. Are you all thinking of offering anything besides views to the audience, or like are you going to offer try to put your toe into teaching or something of the sort?
Yeah, so actually this week last week we launched some online specific classes. I think what happened, because this all happened right in the middle of some improv classes that were happening, and so we took kind of a week or 2 weeks off to kind of retool those improv classes so we could at least finish out those classes. So we were able to do that. But while we were doing that, we kind of looked around at our skill set within our artists and said, okay, what are some things that are specifically going to work well on online improv classes? So for example, we do a lot of playwriting at Dad. So like this would be a great opportunity. A playwriting class online translates a lot easier than improv. So we're doing an improv class. We're doing improv for de-stressing. We're doing some book studies on it and going through some classic improv books. And so we're launched some online specific classes, but at the same time as we're launching that, our next project is then to go through all of our curriculum of our old improv classes and say, okay, how can we retool this so that it works for online classes? And so that's been the project for the last couple of weeks of retooling all of our stuff for online. And I think the cool thing about that is it now puts us in a position where when we are able to come back and do like in-person classes again, we'll have that, but we're also not going to stop doing online classes. So now it gives us an opportunity to offer classes to people anywhere in America and not just here in Georgia.
Well, and the other thing that's cool about that is Dad's as John said, is a family. We have family members who have moved away. And so now some of our dad's folks who are in LA or in Chicago get to teach dad's classes. And those are folks that obviously, as a dad's patron, you wouldn't get to take a class from regularly. So it's pretty cool that we get to expand the reach in terms of like who can take classes, but then also who can teach classes.
So I know it's early talking about having both an online offering and an in-person offering, but how would that be, especially with this, coming out of this, how would that be sustainable for a nonprofit?
Well, so you have to keep in mind, we have something around, I haven't counted recently, but somewhere around 40 to 50 artists in our group of improvisers. And so for us, and our in-person classes have been blowing up the last couple of years. And so we've already been looking at expanding our in-person classes. So really this just gives us another way of doing that, and also gives us an opportunity to engage more of our teachers and more of our improvisers to allow them to teach. So for us, it's been funny because if you had asked us 6 months ago, what was the biggest problem with our improv classes, we would have told you physical location, because we can only do so many classes in one space. And now we have this opportunity that on some level, physical location is less important now because we have these online offerings.
And so just to give you some statistics to that, our classes grew sixfold in the previous 6 years. So we've been seeing incredible growth. And so to echo John's point, we see it as a huge opportunity, and our strength as an organization lies in our diversity of revenue streams, because then if any one thing doesn't hit, we have all these other opportunities to make money. And I think this only adds to that, especially as, there's talk of potential resurgence in the fall. So we need to be prepared for if we all need to go digital again. There's no point in taking that offline.
So with these type of offerings, and then also the thought of the resurgence, what does a socially distanced, that's the question. What does a socially distanced dads look like with the classes, with the shows? Because eventually, just like the movie theaters and the restaurants, you got to bring in some cash flow besides, the little trickle you're getting now.
So I'm actually really lucky to be on the Mayor's Advisory Council for reopening the city.
Okay.
And so I've been thinking a lot about that. To me and to the entire sector, frankly, it's really important that it be data-driven, so that it be something that is safe to do. And so we're talking about how do we create pockets within this, fixed seating? How do you create pockets where people can sit with their loved ones who they're living with, and then there's 6 feet in between them and other people. So looking at taping off seats, looking at creating spaces in the lobby where there's also some clear delineation. So there would be a capped capacity, obviously, because that's going to decrease the amount of people that can attend shows. Also looking at how do we change what happens at the bar so that that's a quicker, easier setup. Keeping all the doors open so that people don't have to touch shared doors, and going to no cash. It's interesting because we have the opportunity to borrow from industries that have already been open, like airlines and grocery stores. So we're looking at best practices from those organizations and kind of looking at I think it's likely to be a ramp up into things. It's not going to be I'm looking at a scenario where it's safe to gather 20 or fewer people. And then another scenario where it's safe to gather 50 or fewer people. And then another scenario where it's safe to gather 100 or fewer people. And then another scenario where it's safe to gather 250 or fewer people. And so I think just kind of looking at it as a ramp up, the safety of our performers, of our family, of Atlanta is more important to us. So we'll wait to see what the CDC or other similar institutions say in terms of gathering. But in the meantime, we're starting to kind of lay out the space to make sure that people can exist in socially distant ways.
Okay. Let's say it's November and they just magically everybody they're like, all right, we got the vaccine. Everybody can go out and do everything. And you guys are starting up more 100 people shows and everything in the audience. Would I spoke to Larry the Cable Guy about a month ago, and he lives in Nebraska, and he was talking about how in Omaha he has a friend who owns a comedy club, and he's talking about doing a benefit for them whenever he can, so that he can, and like just inviting all his comedy friends to do sets, and Jeff Foxworthy and all that stuff. And Never Not Funny, Jimmy Pardo, they did something on Saturday for Flappers in order to raise money for the Flapper staff. It was just another fundraiser. Would you ever hold a fundraiser for yourself in order to raise money for the staff and anybody else who needs it, with the help of your friends like Lucky Yates and Alton Brown and Amber Nash and the rest of everybody?
I mean, absolutely. To John's point, like once we realized that the organization was going to be okay, I think the emergency fund is a perfect example of that, where we were able to give $23,000 to family members who were in need, and we're just about to give out another $12,000. And also, because of the way we operate, everyone is on W-2, and so all of our folks were eligible for unemployment. And so anyone who wanted to apply, per Georgia Department of Labor, the organization applied for them. So we have 139 people on W-2, and 35 people are currently on unemployment because their revenue has decreased because we're not doing as many shows. The folks doing Twitch are still getting paid. We're not doing as many classes, but the teachers who are teaching are getting paid. And we're not doing as many corporate workshops, although we did just have our first digital one. So I think we would definitely explore a fundraiser, but we want to make sure that we're not taking advantage of the generosity of our artists. And Twitch right now has been paying for itself. We're getting donations through that. And so we're trying to find ways that we can remain financially stable while continuing to take care of our people and trying to balance not asking too much of them with supporting the organization, if that makes sense.
It does. Is there anything else that neither of you haven't heard from anyone else in the comedy community or business community in regards to something that you haven't heard talked about when it comes to coronavirus and dealing with dads or any other business like that, whether performing or business?
I think, I don't know. I think probably the only thing that pops to my head is, I think this is definitely one of those things where I think it can definitely be a wake-up call for a lot of folks. I think I've been in Atlanta long enough and been a part of the arts community long enough that I remember when we went through the last recession and how difficult that was for a lot of arts organizations, comedy organizations. And I think these are those times where it's a lot of fun doing the art that we do and making the comedy that we do and all that kind of stuff. But it's also a great reminder of just how important the boring stuff that some people like view as boring stuff is, in the sense of like art. Do you have a solid business plan? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have an emergency plan? Like all these things are easy to gloss over and easy to forget about, but doing that work and having a team of folks that are doing that work, I mean, this is when those moments pay off. And that's been a great reminder for us to make sure all of our areas are shored up in that way.
And the other thing I'll say is, like, I've been working on some arts advocacy initiatives for the past couple of years. I was part of the group that organized the Mayoral Forum for the Arts when Mayor Bottoms was elected. And this COVID has underscored the need for an arts advocacy institution for me. There's just so many learnings we can be doing as a group, or bulk purchases, or like there's just so much value, but there's no one whose job that is. And so I found myself in a position of kind of trying to step up and help the community. But for me, I think that's the thing that has really been underscored for me in these times. And then seeing the way that the community has banded together has been really heartening. Like we're all kind of fighting for each other. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me. This really helps.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad we could.
I wish you guys the best of luck. I will always be supporting Dad's, my favorite comedy institution in Georgia and the Southeast.
I love hearing that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Keep up the good work, and I wish you well and all the best. Did you like that interview? Oh my gosh, I hope you did, because both Lara and John were a delight. I truly enjoyed talking to them, and they had so much to say. They're very insightful on the entire thing. Now listen, if you want to help out Dad's Garage during this time, if you can, head on over to dadsgarage.com, where you can donate to them. You can donate money. They are a nonprofit, so any funds would be greatly appreciated. You can go to www.dadssocialdistancing.com to see their live streaming schedule and quote, no shortage of dumb jokes, as well as head to twitch.tv/dadsgarage to see people like Lucky Yates, Amber Nash, and just a bunch of other famous funny comedy people or non-famous funny comedy people that are based in Atlanta, and see them do their work. You can follow Dads on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Again, thank you so much for watching. Why don't you check out some of the other stuff that's on this channel? I mean, come on. You're not here for one thing, right? Right?